nutrition. Dr. Gerald Edelman is checking in from Dallas, and he is going to tell us about brown bagging versus cafeteria food in our lunches. Now, we've talked about this before, how America pretty much has the healthiest trash can in America with all these different stipulations that they have to have. So a pretty interesting conversation we're getting ready to have. Dr. Gerald Edelman out of Dallas at drjerrys.com for his website. ESPN 93.5 and Sunny 95.3. I'm Diane Ducey. And again, if you want to win that turkey fryer, we'll get that going inside the next ESPN 93.5 and Sunny 95.3. Dr. Jerry, how are you this morning?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Brown bagging versus cafeteria food. Let's set this up. What made this an interesting topic for you to explore?
Well, it tells us how uneducated everyone is, like parents. So if they're making lunches for their kids, they don't really know what to put in the lunches, number one. Number two, I think a lot of it is time, Even if the parent has a clue, a lot of times they don't have time to pack the right lunch. So the study's showing that the lunches at school are healthier than the lunches, that the parents make. And a couple other things that I know. Number one is the study itself is talking about healthy and lumping things that aren't healthy. And so we have to define what we mean by healthy, And so if you're packing a lunch for your kids, you need to think ahead and kind of tip it towards protein and tip it away from sugar. And that's kind of what my message has been for the last year or so since my book came out.
And that's called Sugar Rehab? Your book is called Sugar Rehab?
Yeah, Sugar Rehab. It lists, okay foods and not okay foods. And if you stock your house with the okay list, which is really based on looking at the sugars per serving in foods and not bringing home anything that has more than a half a sugar cube per serving, which is 2 grams per serving. And so if the house is stocked that way, you pretty much can't go wrong when you pack the lunch for your kids.
Well, let's talk about what people are putting in their lunches. I mean, obviously, a sandwich and a piece of fruit and cookies is pretty much the formula that I grew up on.
Yeah. So let's pick that apart. So when you make a sandwich, you should make it with bread that has 2 grams of sugar per serving or less. And so, for example, a whole grain, sugar-free brand. Down here in Texas, we have Miss Biard's is a sugar-free whole wheat bread. So I look at sugars per serving. I don't look at carbs. And the sandwich should be packed with protein. So I would not have a peanut butter and jelly because the jelly is going to cause a blood sugar spike in your kid. But I would have, a good protein like a chicken sandwich or a cold cut sandwich, packed with protein. I would get rid of the cookie because the cookie's going to cause a sugar spike. And we don't want that for a lot of reasons, which I explain, in my book. But particularly with the kid in school, you get a sugar spike and they get a little charge of energy and then they're going to crash because that's the way the body works about an hour later. And the fruit, you got to be very careful with fruit because fruit is also kind of sugary. And that will also cause blood sugar spikes and crashes. So, again, we want to have the sandwich. We probably want to put some mixed nuts in there for the kid. And we want to have, and this is controversial to a lot of people, but not to me, but a diet soda would be fine in the lunchbox because, again, we're avoiding a sugar spike, and it's healthier for kids than sugary stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Dr. Gerald Edelman website is drjerrys.com. So a question for this, because obviously we're just talking about school lunches here, but when it comes to the sugar content, if we're talking about adults and what we would eat for lunch or what we might bring to work, do some of these same rules apply, or are these very specific to children because they're developing and all of that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, by the way. It's applicable to everyone. And the key note is don't eat stuff that causes blood sugar spikes. If even, adults and children alike, because when you get the blood sugar spike, there's direct damage to the body, which is basically can be summed up as inflammatory. Blood sugar spikes cause inflammation. And the second reason is that you're going to go through a cyclic mood. You're going to feel pretty good, have a nice rush, and then you're going to crash because the blood sugar, when it goes up, it has to be readjusted by the body, so you end up valleying. And that's true for children and adults. So what I'm trying to teach people is, as a parent, heighten your own awareness about the sugar, and then teach your children. A lot of people kind of jokingly tell me, on Halloween I had to be the most uncool person in the neighborhood, but, I'm not advocating that we go crazy about anything. I'm all about common sense. Once you heighten your awareness about the stuff you and I are talking about, you can introduce intelligently at times, some sugar, but I'll tell you one thing, it doesn't taste as good. It becomes more overpowering. It's like anything else. When you desensitize yourself to a habit, the thing that you are habituated to becomes a little bit less appealing, The same thing's true for sugar.
Well, we're talking with Dr. Jerry on ESPN 93.5 and Sunny 95.3, and there's a study, November-December issue of the Journal of Nutrition, Education, and Behavior, 50 million children going to elementary and secondary public schools in the United States every day. And according to their background information on the study, 60% eat the school lunch, 40% bringing their lunch. Parents often complaining they want the schools to serve healthier lunches, and this is something that Michelle Obama is definitely on top of. But the study suggests that the kids would actually be better off eating tuna casserole surprise from the cafeteria than whatever typical parent would pack. And we were just talking over more of a healthy bread choice could be part of that sandwich, or less sugar with maybe instead of cookies, cracker and cheese possibly, and watching your fruit and the sugars in the fruit. Can we get this information at drjerrys.com then?
Yeah, it's drjerrys.com. And I have a lot of interviews posted there. Folks can get some education, similar to what you and I are talking about. Hey, one other point that I'd like to make is, a lot of this has to depend on how you define healthy. Like, I guarantee you that if all three of us went in and we visited together the cafeteria and we looked together at what they're serving, it may be relatively more healthy if it's lower glycemic, if it doesn't cause a sugar spike. But, even cafeterias, because the study defines health wrong, in my opinion. Health is defined by eating things that don't cause a blood sugar spike. And I think that the stuff they serve in cafeterias, like, macaroni and cheese and things like that, do cause blood sugar spikes. So be aware of the blood sugar. That's my message.
All righty. Well, we appreciate you being on this morning with us. You have a good day, Dr. Gerald Edelman.
Thank you. A lot of fun. Bye.